Hello and welcome to this rather shitty video. Now that we've set the appropriate tone with a crap pun, we can get down to business. There are many reasons why you should and could be paying attention to what comes out of your rear end. This could be an unexpected and unpleasant experience in the toilet, noticing that there's been a sudden change in the frequency and type of stool you pass. Colour changes are perhaps the most obvious when it comes to what jumps out at you. The first thing that might have an effect is the food you eat. There are many foods that can change the colour of your feces. These include beets, the very red and very liquid root vegetable. This happens because it contains something called beta-cyanin. This gives the beets their dark red colour, but it also doesn't break down entirely as it passes through your GI tract. Unfortunately for you, this may come out the other end as a very noticeable and rude surprise, with your feces being a very beet colour. Interestingly, rhubarb can also do something similar. Another example of commonly consumed food that can affect you unexpectedly are carrots. There are many things said about carrots, some more accurate than others. For instance, carrots are meant to help you see at night. This unfortunately is a myth that's been perpetuated since World War II. It was spread in the hopes of confusing the Germans into believing that the fighters for the British Air Force had in fact better eyesight because they ate their carrots, not because the British had a very large radar array. What it can do, rather than letting you see better at night, is turn your feces a very strong orange colour. This owes to yet another possible dye-like compound, in this case beta-carotene. Other foods that can have the same effect include sweet potatoes. If you're about to start on a healthy eating binge, this is another way you might suddenly change the colour of your poop. Eating a lot of green roughage, things like your cruciferous vegetables, brassicae, and a lot of the fibre-rich foodstuffs. These all contain a lot more of one very simple compound you may have heard of before, chlorophyll. Chlorophyll will find its way into your feces, along with the rest of the material that was going to be in there anyway. This means you get a concentration of a strong green pigment in your poop, and this can make the colour very obvious. If you're recently changing diet, as said, it may be more apparent than otherwise. The final candidate are blueberries, and in fact you may make your own small village of blueberries after having eaten a large number. These will come out of your rear end with the same sort of strong pigmentation, although to the best of our reckoning it shouldn't lead to the same degree of incest as the Smurfs seem to have. Dietary changes and unexpected consequences to eating food that you haven't really paid much attention to before now are one thing. Medications are another, and these can more often than not lead to unwarranted concern. In this video, we'll talk about two candidates in particular. One of these is called bismuth subsilicate. This is going to turn your feces very black. Again, this is another one of the cases where the processes of making the chemical in question can lead to either the generation of dyes due to breakdown by the GI tract, or the product itself, after being metabolized in part, produces the dark dye, which will come out the other end in the very obvious manner that it does. The other is Radiogardis. This is an interesting one. Well, interesting in that most people shouldn't have any reason to encounter it. It's a medicine used to remove radioactive compounds from the body. The name itself, if you know it by its practical application, is going to give away what happens. It's something also known as Prussian blue. This is a very specific dye. As you can imagine, if you are going to consume a blue dye, there's a strong chance that whatever comes out of you will also be the same colour. The final thing that comes under medications, although technically not a medication but a supplement, are iron supplements. Much like bismuth subsilicate, these can turn your feces a dark, even black coloration. This is one reason why taking oral iron supplements can have an unexpected consequence, and something that, again, you should be aware of but not panicked about. While we're on the topic of dark-coloured poop, another example, but far more common, is coffee. This can turn your number 2 a black colour. Finally, there are a range of GI tract problems. For the most part, the immediately obvious is going to be bleeding in the lower GI tract. This will make your stool bloody red. Further back, it will be black from the blood oxidizing or otherwise being metabolized. That somewhat incomplete breakdown process is what leads to the darker coloration. Bleeding in the lower GI tract is effectively fresh blood, and therefore has not yet oxidized, leading to it being that common, well-recognized red coloration. Finally, there are gallbladder and pancreatic issues. In the case of your pancreas, this is generally pancreatitis, your stool will turn a grey colour. This is partially because the pancreas creates a range of enzymes needed to break down the contents of your small intestine after it comes out of the stomach. Without this, it doesn't break down, and so you have the material carry through intact. The gallbladder can do something similar, but rather than turning it grey, if your gallbladder isn't working as intended, it can turn your poop a yellow colour. Unlike urine, the digestive tract is far more effective at dealing with small and large molecules, simple and complex molecules, and everything in between. This is why even the smallest of dyes cannot always escape being metabolized. It's also why your GI tract either needs a bulk quantity of agents to color what comes out of you, or it needs to fit into a very specific and niche category of being unable to be metabolized by the human body or the bacteria that have colonized your GI tract. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions that you have below.